Peru, relatives of the 13 miners murdered in the FTS province demanded justice for their loved ones in view of the government's inaction. In Yemen, an attack perpetrated by the Vatican authorities are finalizing preparations for the celebration of the conclave in the Sistine Chapel, where the 133 cardinals will gather to elect the new pontiff on May 7th. And in Yemen, an attack perpetrated by the United States and Israel killed 2 civilians in the west of the country. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Peru, the relatives of the 13 miners who were murdered in the FTS province demanded justice for their loved ones in view of the government's inaction. Victims reportedly worked for a contractor of La Poderosa Gold Mining Corporation. In late April, their relatives reported that they had been kidnapped by criminal groups linked to illegal mining. Likewise, their families highlighted the police ignored their warnings and a video of their executions. Meanwhile, local media unfolded their co-workers found Sunday their bodies. In this regard, the Peruvian Congress urged the executive branch to respond firmly and take immediate action against organized crime. In this context, in the mining province of FTS, 8 people injured in another kidnapping are being evacuated after an ambush. The authorities announced that the injured people are 2 policemen and 6 mining workers and stated that 6 of those affected had to be transferred by helicopter to be treated in the city of Trujillo. Local authorities also stated that the ambush arose after an attempt to take over the Aracoto camp of the Carabelli mining company located in the district of Tayabamba in the province of FTS. Meanwhile, military and police contingents are trying to control the situation by order of the government. In Argentina, the population's distrust of President Javier Milei's administration has increased for the 5th consecutive month. A study by the Torquato di Tella University revealed that the government confidence index in April scored 2.33 points, a decrease of minus 3.7% compared to March 2025. The study shows a negative variation in 5 components, such as the government's inability to solve the country's problems, the efficiency in the administration of public expenditure, the general evaluation of the government, and the concern for the general interest. The Association of Journalists of El Salvador expressed its rejection of threats to issue an arrest warrant against a journalist of the digital media El Faro.
Lo que está pasando en este momento refleja una situación más apremiante y más oscura.
What is happening right now reflects a more pressing and darker situation. It is very likely that next year's report will have to be called "Doing Journalism is Not a Crime." Because what is happening right now is one more step in the criminalization of the practice of journalism. I believe that we have to raise our heads, we have to stand tall. We, journalists, are not criminals. We, journalists, do a very important job for democratic cities, for democracy. What we have done is an investigation based on the journalistic method, and they are trying to impose a narrative that basically wants to manipulate in a very perverse way and make us look as if we are the ones who commit crimes, as if we were criminals.
hacernos ver como que si nosotros somos los que cometemos delitos.
In Guatemala, members of the 48 cantons, together with Guatemalan indigenous people, mobilized against the criminalization of former indigenous authorities in the country. Demonstrators advanced from the Plaza de la Constitución in front of the seat of government to the Supreme Court of Justice, demonstrating with banners their discontent with the salary increase that the legislators had prescribed for themselves. In this sense, on April 23rd, the Public Ministry arrested the former president of the 48 cantons, who led the road blockades in defense of the electoral results. On the other hand, the civil society organizations declared a permanent assembly in support of the indigenous authorities in the face of the criminalization by the Public Prosecutor's Office and urged to rescue the rule of law in the nation. In Colombia, the evidentiary phase in the trial against former President Álvaro Uribe moves forward. Uribe faces charges of bribery of witnesses and procedural fraud. After the end of the sessions corresponding to the witnesses, statements were collected from former paramilitaries linking Uribe to the emergence of armed groups. In addition, an analysis was made of a wiretap of the former president in 2018, which shows the attempts of lawyer Diego Cadena to obtain testimonies through blackmail in favor of Uribe. During this Monday's trial, Álvaro Uribe appears as a witness and in person. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Monday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum stated that her U.S. counterpart Donald Trump proposed sending U.S. troops to Mexico. The Mexican president avoided responding to recent statements by President Trump, alleging a supposed fear on the part of the Mexican head of state of the cartels in the country. Sheinbaum also highlighted the good relations with the U.S. government, pointing out that she prefers direct communications and not through other means. Sheinbaum indicated that in the 3 months of Donald Trump's administration, they have shared at least 5 telephone calls.
What I said on Saturday is that, in fact, in a phone call, rather than as a warning, as the Wall Street Journal presented it, President Trump said, "We want to help Mexico, and to help Mexico we want to send them, among other things, troops, if they need it." And I told him, "No, President, we can collaborate in many other things, within the framework of our sovereignty, and the territoriality that corresponds to each one of us."
Moreover, the Mexican president said that she supports President Trump's statements on stopping arms trafficking from the United States to Mexico.
El presidente Trump dijo mano dura a el tráfico de armas de Estados Unidos a México.
President Trump said, "Iron fist on arms trafficking from the United States to Mexico." That has never been heard before from a president of the United States, and it is important for Mexico to stop arms trafficking, just as we are working very hard to reduce and stop the trafficking of fentanyl from Mexico to the United States and other drugs. So, there is also a very good relationship between the Northern Command, the Secretary of the Navy, the Secretary of Defense. There is a very good relationship between Secretary Edward and the Secretary of Commerce of the United States, between the Mexican Finance Secretary and the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. So, it is not worth it, and it is not a matter, you know that, we are here with a security strategy that you are going to see on Thursday, that has very good results.
The U.S. company Chevron warned of the risk it would pose to the United States if it abandons Venezuela. The company's presidency assured that if the company stops its operations in the South American country, energy security and the growing influence of China could affect U.S. interests. Chevron, which is only allowed to export Venezuelan oil to the United States, has been under pressure from Donald Trump's administration to stop extractions in the Bolivarian nation. According to the oil company, the refineries on the Gulf Coast of Mexico are designed for this specific type of oil extracted from Venezuela, so it is very important for Washington's energy security. The Brazilian government expands the More Doctors Health Program to 3,174 new positions, which will provide health care to more than 63 million Brazilians. The Ministry of Health said that of these new posts, at least 3,066 will be distributed in 1,620 municipalities and the rest in 26 special health districts for the indigenous population, especially in remote and socially vulnerable areas. The More Doctors program is aimed at strengthening primary health care and specialized care of the single health system, which is one of the main plans of the national government administration and contributes to the training of doctors specializing in family and community medicine, master's degrees, and doctorates in family health. In Brazil, the Christ the Redeemer was illuminated with an image of Pope Francis paying tribute at the close of the traditional 9-day liturgical mourning period following the death of a pope. To mark the moment, the sanctuary projected two of Francis' most powerful messages onto the iconic monument. Todos, 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 a call for universal inclusion, he said during World Youth Day in Lisbon in 2023, and peace is possible from his final Easter address, underscoring his commitment to global peace. Meanwhile, preparations are underway for the Papal conclave, set to begin later on Wednesday 7th. Representing 71 nations, this will be the most geographically diverse conclave in the Church's history. The Vatican authorities are finalizing preparations for the celebration of the conclave in the Sistine Chapel, where the 133 cardinals will gather to elect the new pontiff on May 7th. The Holy See has announced that 2 bonfires and a chimney have been set up at the site to emit the white smoke that signals the appointment of the successor of the late Pope Francis. Until an agreement is reached, the black smoke will continue to be emitted. The test will consist of 4-day daily votes, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. If necessary, a direct and obligatory second ballot will be held between the 2 cardinals who received the most votes in the previous ballot. In all cases, a 2/3 majority will be required.
What I'm doing is looking, listening, seeing people coming from Mongolia, working in the Curia, who are with the poorest people in Latin America, in Africa. This is very beautiful. It's a richness, and for this I think it does us all good, believers and non-believers. This I think is also the legacy of 2,000 years of ecclesial life and also the legacy of Pope Francis.
Everyone is among us. I don't know who it is, he doesn't know himself, but there's the future Pope, and he will hear all of this. And it's from this richness that he will nourish himself, and I hope that afterwards we will be able to be for him a true college of brother cardinals.
We have a second salt break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Fana show break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. In Yemen, an attack perpetrated by the United States and Israel killed 2 civilians in the west of the country. The Ministry of Health also detailed that more than 40 civilians were wounded as a result of the U.S. Israeli aggression in the port city of Hodeidah. Following the attack, the Yemeni armed forces reported that they would consider expanding the list of targets for possible attacks in Israel in response to the aggressions of Tel Aviv and its allies. For their part, the Zionist regime forces argued that the attack was in response to the latest offensives by the Ansar Allah movement in defense of the Palestinian people. In Iraq, a massive sandstorm swept through the city of Baghdad and surrounding areas on Monday, triggering urgent warnings from traffic authorities due to low visibility. The meteorological event was attributed to a seasonal transition pattern caused by shifting wind directions across the Arabian Peninsula. In this scenario, authorities warned of diminished visibility, urging drivers to exercise caution. The storm reportedly caused delays in opening hours for schools in several districts. This type of phenomena have become more frequent and severe in recent years, as environmental researchers warn that unless major reforestation and land restoration initiatives are implemented, Iraq could witness up to 300 dust storms annually in the coming decades. In Jordan, flash floods triggered by heavy rain caused the death of 2 Belgian tourists on Monday in Petra. Authorities had evacuated the majority of the close to 1,800 tourists visiting the ancient city on Sunday as a precautionary measure to ensure their safety. The Belgian woman and her 3 children went missing while being part of a group on an unguided trip. According to a statement from the General Security Directorate, rescuers retrieved the bodies of the mother and one of her sons about 125 miles south of Amman in the Shubak region, while the 2 other children were found in good health. The area witnesses increasing rains and storms, which scientists claim occurred more frequently around the world due to climate change. The United Nations honored the victims of the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on Monday during a ceremonial tree planting in the United Nations Staff Garden. The tree planting is a symbol of peace and resilience. It also marks the 80th anniversary of the United Nations. Let's listen to the statements of some of the organization's high-ranking officials.
It is very difficult to really imagine and understand what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki 80 years ago. But I think what we all need to remember is that we can make peace and build peace if we are together. And as you can imagine, the United Nations is a place where people and countries come together and then work together to make that objectives a reality.
I hope as these sufferings grow, so too will our aspirations for peace spread and become a reality. At the ongoing NPT PrepCon, Japanese Foreign Minister Iwaya Takeshi spoke at the general debate last week and called on state parties to, quote, cherish and exercise the spirit of dialogue and collaboration, unquote. I sincerely hope the Hibakujumoku today we will plant, or atomic bomb survivor trees planted here will stand as a symbol of this spirit.
Today more than ever, however, many around the world are worried about the persistence and scale of conflicts, including the deepening poverty and underdevelopment and the deterioration of the well-being and dignity of many around the world. More is therefore required of us in addressing these concerns and meeting the expectations of the peoples of the world as we celebrate the 80th anniversary of the United Nations. The disarmament agenda and the need to prevent the catastrophic effects of a nuclear war cannot be left out of such an effort.
In other news, the Ministry of Health of the Russian Republic of Dagestan has announced the death of 3 people after a shooting in a town in the Russian Caucasus. Health authorities also reported that at least 5 people were wounded after several armed men attacked a traffic police unit in the capital of Dagestan. They also detailed that the perpetrators of the shooting fled in a vehicle and an interception plan was executed to find and arrest the attackers, who have already been neutralized. The authorities are continuing the operational search in the area and are looking for information about the victims. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese gave his first speech on Monday after being re-elected on Saturday's polls. The leader of the centre-left Labour Party vowed to continue working and not take the people's vote of confidence for granted.
We are deeply humbled by the result on Saturday, and we don't take a second of it for granted. The hard work will continue today. My government has been an orderly government. We have worked hard. We've had effective ministers, but also an effective caucus. And we've engaged in a way that's clear, that's forward-looking, that made not just a case that we had been a good government in getting inflation down, wages up, interest rates starting to fall, employment growing. We also had an effective offer going forward as well that resonated with people, that we developed in consultation with people.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media as well. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you very much for watching.